Ha ha hee ha ha ho. Laugh at me, laugh at your world. Good for one is good for all. There's a commandment you don't know about, and the less you know, the better, really, doesn't it? Because you can't handle your knowledge. Don't feed the Gentiles. You know what I mean? You just can't handle your knowledge. You know what I mean? You just eat it, don't you? Pick the fruit from my garden. Give you a little information, Pinkerton warfares, eliciting confessions. Stuff your faces full of forbidden fruit. You're going to be sorry you were ever born, baby. And I'd like to tell you about the commandment you're not supposed to really know about. It's a weird one. You know, I've contemplated all of these things in great extent. And it's a priestly decalogue, like, you know what I'm talking about. And it's, thou shalt respect the holidays of the Lord. Now, technically, Lord and Lords and Lords kind of is all under a branch of God. So this is what I always thought was hard to find out. How the heck do I know about what the heck day in nature I'm wandering around a field with a shovel and stuff? How do I know what days the holidays of the Lords are? So maybe I'll start looking at the stars, and then maybe I'll start figuring out the equinoxes and things, and the solstices, and then maybe consider these special like we do. That's why you do consider these special, because we think these are special. We know that through Genesis, however, that was received, that God rested on the seventh day. And this is something that this is exactly what it is. So God rested on the seventh day. So it's a 7 day cycles, or cycles of seven, basically. So you all have to rest on the seventh day. You ought to rest on the seventh day if you want to respect God. There's been hundreds of Lords since then. And they're all supposed to be respected in the things that they did on the occasions that they lived. Jesus became Lord and baptized and went and fasted and stole the crow, and and went to work. He didn't live very long. I think he didn't die, actually, but, you know, he wasn't around for long. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. He didn't live to see the next year, and the 7 years that followed from there, he didn't live. So you have to observe Lent and Ramadan, and these are supposed to fast like Jesus did. Now, if Jesus lived for another 7 years and wasn't fasting, if he was well fed and working and happy, the Lord's holidays would not include fasting. You have to do whatever the Lord was doing on the days that he was doing them, and recreate and reenact. So everybody's like trying to skateboard and do silly things now, and fall around wokeism and silly things, because you don't have me. But I just want to say, I didn't really arrange this speech very well, or make it as detrimental as I wanted to. So they tried to murder me plenty of times. I think under the stability of Christianity that I couldn't be harmed at all. Like King David was under a good stability, and like I'm under a good stability with Christianity. Jesus wasn't under a good stability with Ahab and Jezebel, and despite Elijah and Moses being there with him, as you see, he had the three coolest heroes ever. What a cool meet. My battery's about to go. Anyway, he wasn't under stability, so he was harmed, but he did regenerate. Like, God's love got to him eventually, or, you know, was found the truth, and he didn't die, but I wasn't even harmed. They almost disemboweled me horrifically and tried to murder me plenty, but I didn't die. I wasn't even harmed much. So the punchline of all this is I have lived for 8 years actually, since this kind of scroll stealing thing occurred, and became a Lord. I've only suffered, pretty much. I've endlessly suffered, starved, been tormented. Like King David was, you can see in the Psalms, they attack me on every opportunity. They attack me on. They have my day. They know everything. They trip me at every step. They outnumber me than hairs on my head. I've done nothing to them, and they endlessly persecute and torment me. So anyway, I've suffered. Starved. I was starved to a point of death in a ditch on the side of the N11. I was in a ditch for 2 winters, starving, like properly starving. A friend of mine actually died. A guy called Chris starved to death in those similar circumstances during that time. What I'm saying is, there's no end to your Ramadan and your torment now. So if you want to respect Jesus, but you need to respect the history of lordships, and there's probably lots of things, and saints' days and martyr days. Like, you know, the Catholic the churches respect all the specific days of lordships. So it's kind of hard to do them all. If I was happy and working and understanding, and I was going to say celibate, but I'm celibate, so all of you don't have to be celibate. It's different. I'm not going to explain it to you. But if I was working and happy and protected, and 12 bells all as well, and there's peace and love between my family, my 14 to 1,400,000 friends and family, then there'd be lovely days ahead for you. That's why it cycles and cycles and cycles and becomes wonderful. I've only suffered and been persecuted and tormented for 7 to 8 years, and you will all have to respect my holidays. And they actually say it all the time. He's on holiday. They say he can't contribute or can't be part of his temple because he's on holiday all the time. And I just thought it was funny as like holiday, and I started thinking about it. It's like, you have to respect these holidays, and all I do is suffer and be tormented on these holidays, and I'm not working. You know, so, I mean, that's where you got the German Worker Party, because they realised they couldn't work, and work becomes profane. So you got all the people trying to work out there, like loomers, people that make clothes can't work anymore, people all over the place. All your docks, all your boatmen are very aware of this. All your truck drivers are very aware of this. You know, and they're just going to start doing silly things like replacing them with like robotic boats and robotic drivers, and it's going to be robotic everything, and it's going to look like the Matrix in the future. You're all going to be lying flat, feeding Babylon, and then Babylon will burst and disappear, and you'll all wake up and be very alone and cold in a very devastating world, like it's happened before and will happen again. You're standing on the shores from a distance. You know, the Pope hasn't read the Revelation according to Jesus Christ, the Revelation of Jesus Christ. The Pope hasn't read it. It's a nice taste and it gives you a sick belly, but the Pope hasn't read it because it's good for you. It's healing, and he hasn't read it as far as I'm aware. Because I keep going on to him about scarletry and wife, and how can you not know this? And he's like, he actually hasn't read the Revelation of Jesus Christ. Oh, Bible doesn't. Nothing in the Bible really makes sense without reading Revelation. That's why it's the key at the end for the throughout. You should read it plenty and then read the Revelation. It's like, oh my God, that's what was happening all through there. And Jeremiah got completely screwed over, and this is, and he hasn't even read it. And he is scarlet, as in he has fornicated with the wife of the Lamb. Or my wife and children. My mother's even worse. Like, that's holy mother frickin'. That's not even really mentioned much. But yeah, I'm just to let you know about the Lord's holiday. So you just have to do everything that I'm doing, and all I'm doing is suffering and tormenting and being starved and despairing and isolated and punished for thinking. I get punished heavily for thinking. If I make a proposition, it's a type of punishment. If I reflect, and look, they punish me different ways for different types of thinking. All day long punishment for consuming. I'm not consuming, and then when I do consume, yeah, no, it doesn't matter. I get criticised heavily for consuming anything I eat, and I'm vegan, like I'm strictly like a vegan. I get punished heavily, so you'll all be punished for consuming. You'll starve. Like Joseph starved down the well for 7 years, and it became the Lord's holiday. And then he said in his prophecies, like, you have feasted for 7 years while I was starving for 7 years, and in the future you are going to starve now for 7 years. You have made the Lord's holiday every year. Joseph in the well starving, he was the forebearer of Jacob. He was the Lord to be continued. And he starved in a well for 7 years, and then the whole world fell into famine for 7 years. And then he gave him Potiphar, and they started him working and being happy and working and happy. And then that Lord's holiday trailed off, and new Lord's holidays were made, reaping and sowing, reaping and sowing. So people didn't starve, and there wasn't famine, and Egypt was saved, and hey, happy days. The only time I've ever found in the Bible that goes well is in Genesis, when Joseph and Jacob were back together with all the brothers. And it fixes everything, and that's what I'm trying to explain to my president and all of you, is to establish Potiphar. Just give me a simple little fucking job in office. It has to be legitimately respected as Potiphar. Like, it has to be understood. I tried to get like a job in a local, Indian scrubbing dishes even during this time. And oh God, to tell you the things they did to my bowels, my insides, when they're persecuting me for working. Because I'm not doing the work I'm meant to be doing. I was meant to be doing another type of work, a very important type of work, and I'm just desperately trying. So, they told me not to come into an exchange at all and stuff like this, but I did, because I knew it would have an effect on all of you, and you wouldn't be able to exchange, and that almost did happen for us. I'm very aware of what I've been told to do, but then with ramifications, what will happen if I do these things. I'm trying so desperately to consider you all, and all you do. And I have other videos explaining why I've got a majority of merchants in my temple that are tormenting me, and I just need a majority of good people really to get me out of there, get me away from them. Or if I run, they'll follow me. Like, I went to Spain looking for help from the Caliphate of Islam. And Noel Vanderberg was in Spain, and within half an hour he had people within Spain following me. He's like, within half an hour. There's no word to me go. I went to Italy as well, run around, and then they got a local mafia kind of. They must have told him a porcupine. They told him I was some dangerous person, and the mafia got me bed up or something and robbed all my stuff, and I had to get emergency passport deported. They're going to follow me everywhere, basically, and just hunting me. I've been mercilessly hunted like a dog, for 7 or 8 years. That's another aspect of my torment. Like the things they've been doing to me, hunting me, tormenting me, poisoning me. But yeah, massively persecuted. Like your waters are going to see it, like King David. If you chase me and hunt me and bother me, like your waters will disappear, and your waters are disappearing. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to tell you about the Lord's holiday. It's a commandment you're meant to follow. Respect the Lord's holidays. Respect what He was doing. So it's what you make it, really, isn't it? And like I said, start 40 days, 40 nights. He didn't let that trail off into happiness. He was crucified within that year. He was crucified in the year. He disappeared really in the end. He got up. He didn't die, and he got up more time, but still, he didn't live on to make years ahead. With you, who was with you? His Messiah, so, he's with you. But so what can I tell you? It's going to be a cruel irony that you will all have to be suffering to survive. It's weird, isn't it? You will have to suffer to survive. Yeah, what you reap and sow in the 7 and then the 7. That's why prophecies usually happen around the 7th year to let you know what's happening, because it's a detrimental point. And I gave these prophecies at the 7th year, and I read Revelations and made it very understandable and intuitable and agreeable to everybody at 7th year, and then before the 7th year actually, and then they tried to murder me around the 7th year, and then again, and now it's the 8th or 9th year. Stop counting. But what I'm saying is, once it's past this tipping point, and once it's past this tipping point, another half year, so like in another 2 or 3 years, it's going to be basically impossible to turn back the scale, turn back the momentum. You'll be reaping and sowing too much torment, and it'll spiral off and go like a, I don't know, it was a Roman firework kind of thing. It'll spiral off into torment, and you'll have that until another Lord appears, and it could be 500 years or something until typically another Lord appears. That's why they suffered for 500 years. 400 years, 500 years, these kind of periods until another Lord, until you're so tolerable, until I forget your names, until I forget your faces. You have so many grandchildren that I can find them bearable, or I can have mercy upon them. Because most of your grown-ups, just like the story of Elijah, most of your grown-ups are marked by the beast, marked by me, marked by my wife. Not in a good way, like you're supposed to be marked like as a friend and as a trusted and an authentic and genuine colleague. But he's all fornicated with my wife and screwed my wife and cheated me and hunted me and persecuted me and bullied me. Excuse me. The more you know about this, the worse it is. F-U-C-K. If you just so happen to be a worker or a tool, you're just fornicating. Carnally. KFC basically is another one of saying it. Knowledgeably fornicating carnally. But infidels and wankers. I need to get Joseph to Islam basically, but it's a bit typical that Islam will come to my rescue and no one will believe Islam. But I do probably have a Syrian law to take a lot of heads and a lot of wanker hands, scarlet wankers, and a lot of heads, and I can probably easily get away with that. Die by my hand, So he'll have to go to that. That's what Muhammad did. He got right on the wagon and he just killed all the infidels, and he had a very good and holy right and justification for doing it. So Paddy, gas chambers in the future for half of this country. So yep, respect my holidays and suffer imaginably, and that's how you'll survive.